remember how I said I was going to work through a list of mods that a commenter gave me in regard to mod reviews? Have you noticed how I've still only done one of them? Well, we're going to continue that trend today with Icezer's Supersonic. Compared to most mods, who have at least some unique traits in regards to movesets, Supersonic is seemingly identical to his vanilla game appearance when it comes to his abilities. Essentially vanilla Sonic on steroids. We're going to quickly slide on over to discuss Supersonic's one unique trait, how he interacts with rings. While most characters will start with 0 rings, Supersonic will start with rings already collected. You'd assume it'd be 50, considering that's the amount you need to transform in the first place, but in my experience, I'd usually start with 25 or 33. I'll get to why that's a problem later. You'll also quickly notice your rings draining, the main appeal of this mod. Just like in secret final stages like Doomsday Zone, Supersonic will die instantly if he hits 0 rings, which causes every level to theoretically become a mad dash to the finish, only slowing to perhaps destroy a ring box. The only other changes to the game are the inclusion of more ways to gain rings, as destroying bandits will grant you 2, hitting bosses will grant you 5, except Metal Sonic, who will give you 10, and collecting emerald tokens will grant you 25. This all sounds like a great change, as it completely shakes up how you play each act. No longer is the game just a pure platforming experience, it's now essentially a time management game where you need to balance killing enemies and collecting emerald tokens for your draining ring count. However, problems quickly arise with this. First, I feel the need to say that Sonic Robo Blast 2 is in fact not completely perfect gameplay wise. While it certainly has great game flow, SRB2's most prominent gameplay flaw is probably how slippery the controls are. That can perhaps be blamed on how slippery the Doom engine is, but it nonetheless rears its ugly head while playing this mod. Supersonic is already much faster than standard Sonic, and due to how slippery you are, straight lines of rings are often impossible to run straight through. Of course, you have a death timer ticking down at all times, so in most cases you just have to continue running past and hope they can collect the next trail. This would theoretically be where the alternate ways to collect rings comes in, but it's not quite that simple. Past the first 3 zones, most enemies are in some way hard to hit, whether that's due to requiring multiple hits, using shields, or simply being able to escape your reach. Besides, even if you can hit them, 2 rings are almost never enough to recuperate the time taken to go out and kill them. Bosses are obviously very situational, requiring you to be in a boss act. Even when you do reach those requirements, only the first 3 bosses and last 2 work well. Castle Eggman's boss requires you to wait to be able to hit them, and you'll usually die in the time between attacks. Fang takes longer than 5 seconds to hit in between jumps, and so you'll almost inevitably die regardless of how well you do. Finally, the Metal Sonic race usually needs you to take shortcuts to beat Metal Sonic, which means you won't be able to get enough rings to survive until the end. Do the opposite? If you go out of your way to collect extra rings, then Metal Sonic will beat you and you'll die regardless. Collecting emerald tokens obviously requires you to know where they are, and are usually a pain to get anyway. You might try to rebuke these points by saying that the mod is simply made for experienced players, but I don't think that's really true. High level routes are usually devoid of rings to make sure only skilled players can use them, and speedrunning routes usually entail flying over most of the stage and missing rings anyway. Bosses simply have timers or patterns you need to deal with, most of which are incompatible with this mod as they require time and patience, 2 things you simply will not have enough of to make it through the fight. I think the mod is great in concept but fails in execution. Obviously I can't give any points for a unique moveset and sprites, and I feel the gameplay changes need significant rebalancing and layout changes for maps, like perhaps extra rings or gaining rings for each and tech points. I'm going to give this mod a 4 out of 10, placing it in 37th place, above R.PNZ and below SK Bean. Enjoy the rest of this footage, and ciao.